Ladies and gentlemen, and everyone who hit the wrong button, welcome to the first episode of this new series of the City Skylines 2 and Bramblewick. I'm Beyond Horizon, and I will do my very best to keep this series interesting for you. If you haven't watched the intro for this series yet, you can find it in the playlist for this series. Make sure you give me your honest feedback. I'll put a link in the description as well. Let's get into the good stuff. We're starting out with a basic road layout, and we will expand the network further to create more room for buildings. We're placing a few service buildings to get us started. We need some public transit to get in and out of the town, at least in, because who wants to leave this town? We're not going to get into the heavy transit options just yet, so we're going to settle with the bus station at the moment. I'm constantly reviewing the road layout to see if we need to make changes to it. We're trying to stay as realistic as possible. We need our future citizens to stay healthy, and I want to place a clinic as close to the town center as possible. The bus station is placed almost in the middle of what's going to be the town center. If you get the curve at the deep top of the main road layout, will host a couple of parks. We need a fire station as well, and the UK one is kind of large, so it's not easy to find a good placement without terraforming or breaking the road layout, but we'll try to make it look nice. A little bit of terraforming is necessary when we don't have a flat terrain and limited space, but as long as we clean it up afterwards, I can live with that. The police station will also be as close to the town center as possible, and it's a bit smaller, so it's easier to fit into layout. We're going to zone the commercial part of our town center, and as the UK Content Creator Pack does not include commercial-only buildings, I'm going to try with some other types. I don't think we're going to keep it, but let's see how it looks. While I was zoning the commercial and residential buildings, I of course picked wrong zone type. You probably noticed already, and we're going to rezone the residential buildings soon. When terraforming, it's difficult to make it look natural. If you smooth everything out, it looks unnatural. If you try to create some small irregularities, it can also look unnatural. I'm creating some small pops to get some texture into the hill. And when we place some textures from the PDX mods, it's gonna look pretty good. We've got some space in the middle of these buildings, and I'm gonna use it for some parks. We could have, and probably should have, created a cul-de-sac with a roundabout at the end of this road, but I don't think many people will drive to these parks, so it would probably be too hard to defend the cost of a roundabout. We're combining two parks to make it look like one larger park. It's possible we might replace one of the parks with a playground at a later stage. Everyone loves a park and a playground. Our pedestrians need easy access to everything, and paths are a good way to provide that. You can make some pretty interesting designs just by experimenting with the paths, whether you're creating squares or actually using some curves. It got the potential to look very nice. Of course, this would look even nicer when the details were fall into place. And if you keep it clean and simple and not overdoing things, it will be minimum okay almost every time you try. Sometimes okay is enough. Now, we're ready to expand further up the hill, and this one is pretty easy, and it's time to terraform and prepare the ground for new roads and more housing. I'm trying to make as little impact on the terrain and the slopes as possible, but still be able to zone some buildings. Trying to make the terrain as natural as possible before taking on the task of building more roads. We won't have room for as many buildings when building on the hillside as we do on flat terrain with a square grid. Some of the terrain here will be covered with textures and decals to make it look more realistic. I'm trying not to make the flat areas too big. I'd rather make multiple smaller flat areas than one large one. That way we're getting the realistic height differences. One large flat area is probably the most common mistake people make, and it removes so much of the realism. I've made this mistake a million times myself, but I've learned over the years, and I won't do it again, I promise. I'm using the tools from Extended Road Upgrades that are built into, I believe it's Anarchy, to create a key and remove zoning from one road to make the zoning available to other roads. When I'm zoning, I'm trying to keep the buildings separated with a cell length or two to avoid the nasty terrain the game creates when there is differences in height between the buildings. I really like when there's a little dip or a tiny hill between the building, as long as it doesn't impact the props and textures of the buildings. Let me just fix these overlapping items before we move on. We're just going to use Move It to place and align these houses correctly. I think that looks pretty nice. As always, it's hard to get the feeling without the detailing, but that doesn't matter right now. It will blend nicely in with the next neighborhood we're going to create. Okay, let's move on to the next part of the build. And we're going to make use of this space right here to create one of the most characteristic areas in this town. We're terraforming the ground for the road and creating a curved slope up this hill, and at the end, we'll see that this road creates a pretty nice view. I'm trying to keep the roads up against the hill so all the residents will get the view from their backyard. And while I zone this out, we'll boost the music. Then we're deleting the old buildings. I need to delete them because of the mod Plop the Grobles. There is a setting which doesn't require buildings to follow the zoning type as it does the base game. And now our UK buildings are popping up. If you ever get these odd-shaped buildings because of terrain height differences too close to each other, you can just create a key to get rid of it. I don't know any other way to avoid that. When we detail around this small road and the buildings, it will look pretty natural and realistic. I'm plopping the buildings here to get the most realistic look. We can fit one more building inside this curve? That will look perfect with some detailing. We're getting closer to the town center, and that allows us to use some bigger buildings. It's flat and easier to fit in some bigger buildings. I'm sorry to say it, but I can't live with these commercial building being a part of our town center. They look horrible here. The UK content creator pack does not have any commercial-only buildings, so we're going to have to figure something out. Now, it's time for us to set up a public transit connection to Baris. And as I mentioned earlier, for now, the only public transit is going to be by bus. Even though we have the money to do whatever we want, it just doesn't make sense to set up a subway or train here at the moment. Trams will definitely not happen. The distance is far off. One route will be enough for now, but we might put on some more vehicles at a later stage. Let's plop some more buildings and create some parking. We're close to the town center, and we definitely need some parking spaces. I'm going to plop some buildings here. Hang on. We need a shortcut for our citizens to get to the parking lot. And we're using the vanilla invisible pedestrian path covered with some cobblestone texture. The invisible pedestrian path is available in the vanilla game, but you need to activate developer mode. I'm using a mod to get access to it, but I'm not sure if you need the mod anymore, if it's available without it. I believe the mod is called Extra Landscaping Tools. We're going to build the rest of this neighborhood the same way as we've done with previous parks, so while I'm doing that, sit back and relax. Okay, it's done, and personally, I think that looks pretty nice. Again, with detailing, it'll look even better. Then we'll get back to that later. Moving on to the town center. As I told earlier, we're going to have a couple of parks in our town center, and it's going to be our first village green. It will become some kind of gathering place for our citizens and a place they can relax and have a good time. Every town or city with respect for itself has a supermarket. It's time for Bramblewick to get one as well. The UK supermarket is a pretty big building, and we're not going to fit one without removing some roads. I'm not completely happy with the placement of this supermarket, and I'm trying to find out how we can fit it more perfectly. Sometimes just rotating a building can make it much better. Yeah, look at that. It fits much better like this. I really hate how this commercial district looks. I'm trying to find out how we can use the UK buildings to make this more authentic. It seems like plopping is our best option, so we're going to go with that. We might need to replace that path with some buildings later on. Okay, I'm going to try to make this shopping district a bit more authentic and UK-ish. I need to finish some more of the surroundings to figure out how I want this commercial area to look. Okay, in this square, I want some more height. We need to create some height differences in the build to make something stand out from far away. This is the standout area. Let's see if some plopping can make this area look nice. I'm pretty happy with how that turned out, and I think we'll leave the rest of it to the detailing. Not completely sure if we should make the area up against the rail line a residential one, but let's see what we can do. When I was a kid, I loved to just sit down and watch the trains fly by, and maybe we should consider making this a park area where you can do just that. Okay. Let's start the final residential part of this initial build of Bramblewick. We're going to use a bunch of different housings to create an authentic look for this neighborhood. As always, we're starting out with the road layout. I don't want this area to be a boring square grid. I want it to be natural and organic. The terrain here is kind of bumpy, so it's not going to be easy to build here either. I'm going to plop down some building and see what it will look like. I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. We're not done yet. There's a lot of space to cover. But first, we need some access to the internet for all the YouTubers in this town. The higher and the more open space around the telecom tower we have, the more effective it will be. So let's find a perfect spot for our telecom tower. I think that's fine. We cover a huge area with that. Okay, let's finish up the supermarket area. We're just going to place a couple of parks for now and plop some trees. That looks okay for now. This town needs some playground to entertain the children. We're not going to place too many of them right now, maybe a couple. The people of Bramblewick are smart people. However, they cannot make it without education. We need an elementary school, and I found the perfect spot for that. Right on top of that hill. Later in this series, you will see how detailing really can make an area stand out, and this school will shine like a star. I'm going to fix the terrain around the school really quick. Okay, let's give students, teachers, parents, and services easy access to this future star by building some roads. We need to do some more terraforming, so let me do that quickly. We can give students a more secure way of getting to this school by creating a path. I would like to see if some higher residential building can fit in here. I'm not sure if it will, but let's try. I feel like we need some more height in this town. That's not the best thing I've seen, but we'll leave it for now. We might call a mulligan on this later. Let's fix this awkward placement of the post office and put it closer to the highway for now. Later in this series, we'll probably move the railway underground and make a beautiful entrance to the town. We will also cross the highway and get started on the ocean front, 3 miles on each side. That's a classic metropolitan sign that we are very familiar with. Okay, let's wrap up this episode by filling out the space the post office left behind. And that's it for this episode. I have to say I'm pretty satisfied with how this build turned out. We still got a lot of work to do, but we're off to a really good start, and I can't wait to get back here and build some more with you. In the next episode, we will do a lot of detailing and add some more buildings. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe and engage. Leave a comment, your honest opinion, good or bad, and enjoy the cinematics of what we've done so far. Until next time, take care of yourself and everyone you love.